It is my distinct pleasure this morning to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Mike Geraghty, our Director of the New Jersey's Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell, otherwise known as the NJKIC, which is part of New Jersey's Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. The NJKIC is the state's information sharing and analysis organization, and Geraghty was named to the position in July of 2016. Prior to his appointment, Mr. Geraghty served as the Chief Information Security Officer of the Hudson's Bay Company, Chief Information Officer of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and Vice President of High Technology Investigations at Prudential Financial. Previously, Mr. Geraghty served 12 years with the New Jersey State Police, where he led the formation and development of the High Technology Crimes Investigation Unit. Mr. Geraghty has lectured extensively throughout the world on the topic of cybersecurity, high-tech investigations, and computer forensics, providing technical and investigative assistance to law enforcement agencies both domestically and internationally, including the FBI, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, Naval Intelligence, New Scotland Yard, and the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary Service. He has provided expert testimony before Congress and in the federal, state, and international courts on computer crime investigations and forensics. Geraghty is also a past president of the Northeast Chamber of the High Technology Crimes Investigations Association and has had leadership roles in the National Strategic Policy Council on Cyber and Electronic Crime. Mr. Geraghty has earned his bachelor's degree from Thomas Edison State College. He is married to his beautiful wife, and they have 3 children and reside in Union County, New Jersey. On a personal note, I will share, since Mr. Geraghty has joined our organization, he's been a true leader. Given the current threat environment in the state of New Jersey, it's been a true honor to have Mr. Michael Geraghty come aboard our senior leadership staff and take the reins of such an important field for our state. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome up to the stage Mr. Michael Geraghty.
I just want to know how you know my wife is beautiful. And that's on tape. I think we've got that. So good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Geraghty, as Pat said. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited with the program at FDU. I'm really excited about my job with the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. I've been sitting up front here in the first keynote presentation by Dr. Ross. You probably heard me and saw me nodding my head and saying amen to a lot of the stuff that he said. We have a lot in common. We've been in the cybersecurity field for many, many years. He was a victim of the OPM breach. I was a victim of the OPM breach. He was a victim of another breach. I was a victim of that same breach. I was a victim of the Ashley Madison breach, but he wasn't. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. And we'll get back to my beautiful wife and me being in the Ashley Madison brief. I've been an investigator for most of my life, and that's how I approach cybersecurity. And so obviously you have to do undercover work and you join things. And so when Ashley Madison data breach happened, my undercover identity was there. That's the story, and I'm sticking with it, and that's the one that I told my beautiful wife. So we're going to talk about New Jersey, cybersecurity, and the current threat landscape, and how we're approaching it at the state level, and some of the things that we're doing throughout the state of New Jersey. Just about a year and a half ago, the information security or cybersecurity function was moved out of the Office of Information Technology in the state and moved over to the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. And one of the reasons, or many reasons for it, is the criticality of cybersecurity to everything that we do, whether it's just the state organization, whether that's attracting businesses, whether that's the universities, whether that's our private citizens. small businesses, large businesses alike, the criticality of cybersecurity was so important, it was moved out of OIT into Homeland Security. It's a critical information protection function, and that's where it landed. So we're going to talk about some of the efforts that we've put in place, some of the things that we're doing, and some of the direction where we're going as far as cybersecurity in the state of New Jersey, and how we're responding to threats. Within Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, we have the Cybersecurity Division. It's made up of 3 different areas. One is the cyber governance, risk, and compliance function. And this is really important. I know Dr. Ross talked about this earlier. Governance. Who is responsible for the cybersecurity strategy and its implementation? Traditionally, within businesses, large and small, all sorts of organizations, cybersecurity has reported into the CIO. And there's a natural conflict of interest between somebody that's made to make the business run, the CIO, and somebody that's job is to make it run securely. Cybersecurity can often get in the way. If the CIO is over the CISO, then what happens is the CIO wins all the time. And as a result, shortcuts may be taken and security is watered down. So what happened in the state of New Jersey moves over the Office of Homeland Security. It's responsible for the entire state's preparedness for security issues. It has governance oversight into all the departments and agencies in the executive branch, and it sets the policy, which all state departments and agencies are responsible for complying with. So there's that compliance function, making sure when we develop the policies and standards that they're adhered to at all levels. So it's a really important function. It's something that is relatively new, a year and a half old. It's a different approach to cybersecurity in the state of New Jersey. Neat thing Patrick didn't mention. So I was hired as the director of the NJ-KIC in late June, early July. 2 days later, Director Rodriguez asked me if I would be the acting CISO because that position is currently vacant. So I wear both hats. So I'm responsible for all cybersecurity and all the functions here. We have a cyber operations function as well. And so we'll talk about that more as we go through this. And then there's the New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell, for which I'm the director. And while the CISO function is more inward-facing, making sure that we have proper security controls in place for all state departments and agencies, the NJ-KIC is more outward-facing. It's that one-stop shop for cybersecurity information, analysis, awareness, best practices, and a resource for everybody in the state. Whether you're a private citizen or you're a small business, you're a large business, you're an academic institution, we're your one-stop shop for any of that information. In addition, we're the incident reporting, the centralized incident reporting function for all cybersecurity issues in the state. So whether it's data breaches, whether it's hacks into systems, anything and everything, that would go through this NJ-KIC, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk about the approach to cybersecurity, and I hate to call it cybersecurity. I would rather refer to it as digital resilience. However, if we use that name, all the students in here that want to get into cool cybersecurity jobs will never join digital resilience teams, okay? So we're going to keep it as cybersecurity, but the expectation of cybersecurity is that we're actually going to secure something 100% is never going to be attained. What we want to attain is a sense or level of digital resilience against attack. Digital resilience to respond. So I call it the 3 little pigs strategy, which is not my PhD thesis, but which house are you going to build for when that big bad wolf wants to blow it down? The concrete brick and mortar house was the one that withstood and was resilient to attack, whereas the other houses that they built weren't. So achieving digital resilience against the attacks that we have. One of the things Dr. Ross also mentioned is prioritizing, how we do this. We have to understand the assets that we're trying to protect before we can even start to protect them, right? So people being an asset, information systems being an asset, data being an asset, anything of value, and I'm going to come back to this asset and asset management and everything like that as well. Providing differentiated protection for the various assets that we have. Those most important assets, you know, the database that OPM had, all that social security number information, date of birth, family information for those 22 million victims, that was high profile, need to be protected, sensitive information. And it requires a higher level of security than some of the other public information that may be out there. So differentiating that will allow you to achieve a security program that isn't as costly as it may sound. Integrating security into enterprise-wide risk management functions. Again, this is a theme that Dr. Ross picked up on and mentioned. It is not a cyber function. Information security starts with the business leaders. What are the business objectives? What are we trying to do? What are the systems that are going to provide that business function? What is the information that it's going to process, transmit, store? And then building the security program or the function around that so that we make it a business problem, not a technology problem. And I think that's very important, you know, across the board. Enlisting frontline personnel. You know, in the NJ Kick, we say that our end users are our best protection. They're also the biggest threat. And so that awareness function, if you will, making sure everybody is aware of all the threats, what they should know about compliance, anything and everything related to security, so that our army of human sensors, instead of technical sensors, provides feedback and information to us. They're going to see things, they're going to receive phone calls, they're going to get suspicious emails. We want them to be that front line for us, and that's a critical part of information security. Again, it's not just a cybersecurity function, it is everybody in an organization participating in the program. Integrating security, cybersecurity into technology environment, right? All the technologies. One of the biggest problems that I've seen in my career is that technologies have been implemented from a proof of concept into a business critical system without ever having security built into it. And as a result, organizations of all sizes deal with legacy issues and mistakes that have been made years and years ago. If you've stood in line at the DMV to get your license renewed, anybody have to do that? You know, we talk about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That availability, being able to scale up to the demand, making sure systems are available. Those things weren't thought about years and years ago. And you can't just bolt on security and those concepts today. They've got to be built in from the ground up, and so that system engineering function as well. Deploying active defenses to engage in attackers. Some of that may be those virtual machines that Dr. Ross was talking about, putting them on your network, acting as tar pits, making believe that there's sensitive information on there and watching who attacks it so that you can understand the methods of the attackers on your network or on your system. So one of those, that's some of the things that we're trying to do in Homeland Security within the state as well, to understand how we're being attacked, okay? And then continuously testing your response to attack. You will be attacked, you will be hacked. How you respond to it is probably the most important part of your cybersecurity program. We've seen over the years a number of different breaches, the Anthem breach, the Target breach. There's the breach, I would say, almost every day and every week, and we have a list of them on our website, you know, cyber.nj.gov, of all these different breaches. But how a company or an organization responds to that breach. In the case of Target, they gave out information that was wrong because they tried to get it out too quick. In the case of Home Depot, they gave out just general information, which didn't feel like employees and customers were being misled. So handling that breach is not just the CERT team, the computer emergency response team, or the incident response team. It's part and parcel of your communications program. It's part and parcel of legal. Your business leaders are all involved, not just the technical people that are trying to close off the attack. So we can achieve a sense or a level of digital resilience by implementing these steps, okay? It's not the only thing that we need to do, but overall, this is a good start for how we want to get to where we want to be. So when we talk about this within the framework of an organization, creating the cybersecurity ecosystem, again, we're going to go back to assets, risk, threats. Understanding what risk and threats are out there. If we're going to be a retailer that processes customer credit card information, obviously there's risks and threats that go along with the information that we're going to process, store, transmit, and so on and so forth. So when we want to open up a new store or we want to open up a new business, we're going to put into the business process, what is that information that we're going to deal with? What are the systems that we're going to work with? So in a previous life, I was a chief information security officer for Hudson's Bay Company. How many have heard of Hudson's Bay Company? Right? So a little history. It's the oldest retailer in North America. If you've ever watched the John Wayne movie and the Indians went to the forts, the trading posts, to trade blankets, that was the Hudson's Bay Company. Not too much cybersecurity at those forts in the time. I was the first chief information security officer for that company in 350 years, so that was pretty neat. But it also owns other stores and retailers like Lord & Taylor, and everybody's heard of that, Saks Fifth Avenue, some retailers over in Germany and Belgium, and a retailer that most of the students would probably know. It's online, it's an app, it's called Gilt. So it's all over the board. We deal with customer credit card information. So we built our business processes on how we were going to handle customer credit cards and the like. That's sensitive information. So important information, understanding the risk and who the threats, what the threats are and the threat actors. Building, again, that information systems and technologies, that system security engineering that Dr. Ross referred to. That has to begin at the ground up when we start designing the systems, making sure we're not taking shortcuts, secure coding practices. We've seen over the last few months a number of systems that are still vulnerable to simple SQL injection attacks. And SQL injection, for the non-technical, is simply passing information into a form on a website that it shouldn't be able to receive. So if it asks for your first name and you put ampersand and all sorts of special characters, it may dump that database on the back end and you have access to all that sensitive information in the database, right? There are checks just to do SQL injection or secure coding, and they have to be built in. So when we have those bazillion apps on our phone, I don't know that that security engineering process is being adhered to. And we have to have more and more of that. Everybody can code nowadays. There's coding for children, there's coding for coding camps during the summer. We need to build in secure coding processes and discipline into how we teach people how to code, not just how to build a new game or a new app. The people process is what I talked about earlier. Again, engaging people, ensuring that everybody associated with that business function or that system knows about the security risk and threats, making sure that everybody in the organization that works with that system also knows about the threats and like. So we've talked about people. IT security operations, it's a number of different things. It is the technology people who put endpoint protection on all the systems, endpoint protection being antivirus, anti-malware. It's those that implement firewall rules to block people. It's the IDS and IPS, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, so that we can block all that stuff. And it's all those other technologies that are involved in the security process. When we go to businesses today, most of the time when a new CISO is brought in, they're asked, how much money do you need to get all that stuff? Right? More money is wasted on information security systems and technologies than probably anywhere else in the company. And it's a myopic view of how to secure systems. None of that is going to matter if all these other connections aren't made. And so that information security operations, IT security operations, again, can't stand on its own without sound business processes, risk assessments, information security systems and technologies that have been engineered with security in mind, the security awareness program, and then we go back to the governance and compliance program. And again, this is something that we're doing in the state. This is a way of handling it in every organization. Who is responsible for the security and oversight and the strategy for this organization or whatever organization it may meet? Within that governance process, what we typically do or try to do is have an information security governance committee, key stakeholders, CEOs, CFOs, those that are responsible to answer for the company, because it's typically not the CISO that's going to be quoted in the Wall Street Journal at the time of a breach. It's going to be the CEO that's responsible. The CFO typically has responsibility for audit functions. So making sure that they're all key stakeholders so that when a business unit says, we want to launch this new product or this new system, but the risk is very high, that the entire company's governance structure knows exactly what that risk is so that they can make an educated decision, whether to accept the risk, whether to put mitigation controls in there, or maybe even just transfer the risk. And when I say transfer the risk, that could be as simple, not simple anymore, as buying cyber insurance. It used to be simple to buy cyber insurance, but with all the breaches and the payouts of the insurance carriers and the underwriters, what happens is the appetite for taking on that risk that you want to transfer to them has gone down quite a bit. So using all these in this ecosystem, and they're all connected, and I don't want you to think it's a sequential connection. There's connections back and forth between each one of those boxes, but that's the ecosystem that has to be developed within any organization to even have a chance of obtaining or achieving digital resilience. So we had Dr. Ross, he was from NIST. So how do we approach this? How do we approach implementing a security program? NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has a framework that has been adopted by many organizations, not only in the United States, but also around the world. There is ISO, they have a framework for securing systems and building a security program as well. I like NIST, but if you use a different framework, that's up to you. As long as you have some rigorous approach to how you're handling cybersecurity within the organization, that approach gives you an overview. It lets you look across different domains and functions. Within the NIST approach, identify. And again, underneath identify, you'll see the first thing I wrote there, asset management. What are the assets? What are we trying to protect? Identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. It's a simple approach to it. It allows you to fill in subcategories or domains there as far as asset management, governance, policies and standards, making sure that they're written and they're delivered, everybody signs off on them, and everybody understands them. The compliance function, the risk assessment function, the risk management process, all of those fall under that identify. Then there's the protection mechanisms that are put in place to protect those assets that we're trying to protect. Awareness and training is the first step. Again, people. Access controls. Who has access to systems and data? And that separation of duties, least privilege, all those other concepts also play a part in here. Data security. That may be something as simple as data loss prevention technologies that restrict the ability of an individual to transfer out any data that contains sensitive information. So social security numbers, credit card numbers, dates of birth, people's personally identifiable information, encryption technologies, all of those are considered data security controls. Information protection processes, what is the process for getting an access on your system and things of the like. Change control policies and a change management system so that when you're making major changes to a system, it's controlled. There's a back-out plan. All of that stuff protects your systems along with all the other protective technologies, whether it be endpoint protection, IPS, IDS, and the like. The detection is my favorite area. The detection is that continuous monitoring. And I guarantee you that if you're an organization and this is not really a strategic part of it, you're going to think that you're in good shape. But I also guarantee you that if you look underneath the carpet and in the closets and all these places, you're going to find security issues. How aggressive do you want to be in finding them? They're everywhere because companies have been around, organizations have been around, all those issues from the past, as well as all those new vulnerabilities, 20 critical vulnerabilities being released each week. You're going to find it if you want to. So continuous monitoring. If Mike Geraghty typically logs in at 4:30 in the morning via VPN to check his email every day, and he comes from the Verizon network in Union County, New Jersey, and we see a pattern that Mike Geraghty's logging in, and this is his IP address, and this is the system he logs in from. Well, there's learned behaviors for the system. Now all of a sudden, we have a login to Mike Geraghty's account from Russia or Costa Rica or someplace that he's typically not. That needs to raise a red flag. He may be on vacation, he may be traveling, but it's something that has to be monitored and detected. It's not malware. There's no system or endpoint protection that's going to go off to alert you to that. Other things that we do continuously. If Mike Geraghty logs in from Union County, New Jersey, at the same time he logs in from Texas, well, that's kind of impossible to be in two places at once or within an hour of one another. Just to get through TSA is going to take 2 hours. So looking for those anomalies and those events, not necessarily what all those protective technologies are going to tell you. Your antivirus and anti-malware systems are going to tell you things they know about. And if they know about them, they block them. Same thing with intrusion protection systems. They know about them and block them. It's up to us, individuals, to do the analysis and ask more questions of our systems. What else is happening? What aren't we being told? And that's one place that so far those protective technologies haven't been able to answer as good as humans can do. So find individuals that want to ask those questions and that are curious and that we call diggers. They want to dig into the information. The response, again, the response planning. You can't respond to an incident unless you first planned how you're going to do that. And again, there are frameworks. NIST puts frameworks out for this so that you do it in a methodical manner so that every time you do it, it's repeatable. And if a third party were to come in and question you about how you did it, they would get the same results as you, and they'd have the same findings because your methodology worked and that framework worked. Again, there's communications, there's the mitigation processes, and there's that ability, the incident response tools. We see SWAT teams in the New Jersey State Police. They have the teams, which is their SWAT team. They train every single day for an incident, an active shooter incident or a hostage situation. Your incident response team has to train regularly. If you think that you do one training 6 months ago and then all of a sudden 6 months later they're going to be able to respond and be like that SWAT team, you're mistaken. So there's got to be that continuous training, and it's not just going to classes, it's actually responding and doing real things. Okay? And then the recovery processes, the recovery planning, the improvements to communications, all these are tied together in this NIST framework. They provide a neat framework which is just that, a framework that individual organizations can use to meet their needs. Does it have to be rigorous and follow everything that NIST says? No, it's a framework. Your business, your organization is going to be different from your neighbors or another companies, and your risk appetite is also going to be different. So using a framework as a guide, like we're trying to do at the state, is one way that we're identifying threats, but also mitigating those risks and threats that come about. So this next part is our New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell, the NJKIC, and we have to have an acronym for this because it's impossible to say too many times. This was created about a year and a half ago. Governor Christie signed an executive order in order to create the New Jersey KIC, with the understanding that it would be that one-stop shop for cybersecurity for the state of New Jersey, for the universities, for academic institutions, for small businesses. When we talk about a Prudential, a Lucent Technologies, an AT&T, they have cybersecurity resources that Tony's Plumbing and Heating will not have, Joe's Sub Shop will not have, but they're all using technologies. So where we try and focus a lot of our effort is providing those cybersecurity services, not only to Joe's Sub Shop and Tony's Plumbing and Heating, but to municipalities that may not have those resources, to schools that may not have those resources. We've developed an expertise. We provide services to those individuals, into those companies, those organizations, so that we can provide that. We talk about the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. It's something that we're developing at the NJKIC. These are some things that we develop as a center of excellence that if you apply in your organization, you're going to have that digital resilience, if you will. So what is the NJKIC? State's one-stop shop for cybersecurity, information sharing, threat analysis, and incident reporting. It's a collaboration between the Office of Information Technology. So down at the Regional Operations Intelligence Center in West Trenton, New Jersey, on the campus of New Jersey State Police, is the NJKIC. In the NJKIC, we have Office of Information Technology technicians, system engineers. We have Homeland Security folks. We have New Jersey State Police assigned to us. We work as a fusion center of sorts. Within the ROC, we also have the FBI, and we have Department of Homeland Security, and we have TSA agents, and we have all sorts of other organizations. So we provide this fusion of different disciplines, law enforcement, technology, Homeland Security preparedness, so that we can provide that digital resilience to the state of New Jersey. Multidisciplinary, holistic approach to cybersecurity. It promotes statewide awareness on cybersecurity threats and events. How many are members of the NJKIC in here? One? Okay. How many are going to be members after this? Okay. It's free. How many are going to be members after this? Okay. It's free. And so some of the things that we do, and we have some folks from the team here. Tomorrow we send out a weekly bulletin, which is a recap on all the cyber threats, alerts, breaches, and everything that we've seen. We send out best practices on what to do if you're a victim of identity theft. We have alerts on malware, and I'm probably wrong on the number, but we have profiles on, it was last count that I knew, 99 different variants of ransomware. Anybody ever have ransomware on their system? All right. How many have paid Bitcoin? Okay. Nobody? How many just lost their data? All right. Check with the NJKIC website, because there may be a decryption tool to get all your information back. Again, it's this one-stop shop for cybersecurity information, awareness, and the like. And so those 99 profiles of those ransomware variants, we will provide mitigation strategies. Same thing with denial of service attacks and other breaches or other hacks that you may have. We do not go into an organization with a CERT team at this time, but we will provide you guidance in how to respond to an attack, some of the steps that you need to take to make sure that you can recover from it. So those are some of the things that we're doing. facilitate widespread use of best practices. This is really that security education awareness piece that we do. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter page, we're all over social media, we have a really comprehensive website with all sorts of great information, and it's to reduce the risk for the state of New Jersey, not just within the state departments and agencies, but for everybody, from a private citizen to a multinational corporation. All right? So how we're broken down in the NJKIC, we have an operations branch, we have an analysis branch, we have a partnerships branch. That operations branch is what I refer to as cyber operations. Okay? And what they're doing is monitoring the entire Garden State network. So that Garden State network consists of all the departments and agencies in the state, all the counties and municipalities that connect in to the state network. We have sensors all over the network. We receive almost 2 billion events per day. Our operations group reviews the events. A lot of it's done with technology. And those things that we don't necessarily block right away, what we do is analyze them. We vet them. We see what the risk and threat to our systems in the state are. And then the next thing that we do is we share them with you. Because I know if the Garden State network is being attacked, it's the biggest network in the state of New Jersey, that your system may be attacked by the same bad actors. And so if it's an IP address or it's malware or it's phishing emails, what we're doing is sharing that information out with you. This week we launch an automated system for doing this, the New Jersey CTIX, New Jersey Cyber Threat Information Exchange. It's a machine-to-machine cyber threat exchange, basically. So we take all those indicators of compromise and threats, and what we can do is provide them to you, machine readable, sticks and taxi format, where you can consume those. You can implement them within your IPS, IDS, firewalls, whatever it may be, and block those, or you can just use them as information. Now, the neat thing that we're trying to do is to open up a two-way communication with the citizens, with the companies, with the academic institutions. So not only are we going to share cyber threat information with you, we want you to share it with us. Have you received phishing emails? Have you received other things that are threats to your organization? And so those are some of the things that we want to know about. It goes back to that Homeland Security. See something, say something. If we're the only ones sharing information out with you, it may protect you a little bit, but it's that crowdsourcing of threats and events that are going to help us. The analysis branch I mentioned, we do analysis, we send out alerts, we do threat intelligence, we do briefings. There's more information about the NJKIC on the table. And then there's this partnerships branch. We want you to be a member. There's no obligation, there's no cost. We come out, we speak at your organization, chambers of commerce, whatever it is, universities, classes, businesses. We want to work with you. So that's our organization as far as the Homeland Security and Preparedness Division of Cybersecurity. These are some of the ways that the state of New Jersey is trying to make us more digitally resilient to threats. If you have any questions or you need to contact us, again, we have an email address, njkic@cyber.nj.gov. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, and we've got our website, cyber.nj.gov. And with that, I don't know if that we have time for questions, but if we don't, I will be around at lunch. Thank you.